Welcome back to another Diablo 4 video. So today we're going to talk about a combo that you can potentially get some really insane cooldown reduction on the Druid class. Now I think there's going to be quite a few different ways you can make this work, but specifically for a couple builds we're going to show here today, what we're really trying to do is reduce the cooldown as much as possible on Trample more than anything. But before we get into why we're doing that, let's talk about the combo to reduce cooldowns. So first, we're going to need the Nature's Fury passive. So this reads, casting an Earth skill has a 20% chance to trigger a free Storm skill of the same category. In addition, casting a Storm skill has a 20% chance to trigger a free Earth skill of the same category. So for purposes of this video, only worry about Earth skills casting free Storm skills. So you pair that with Symbiotic Aspect. When the Nature's Fury key passive triggers a free skill, your non-ultimate cooldowns of the opposite type are reduced by 4 to 8 seconds. So the way it seems like this reads is, you cast an Earth skill, it triggers a free Storm skill, then your cooldowns of the opposite type of the triggered Storm skill are reduced by 4 to 8 seconds. This could also maybe just be garbage wording, and what this really is doing is reducing the cooldowns of the opposite type of the ability that you cast to proc Nature's Fury, which would mean in a build like this you would have to be using something like Storm Strike as your generator to reduce the cooldown of Earth skills. It doesn't read like that, but it kind of seems insane that you get to cast an Earth skill to reduce Earth skills, and then the Earth skills that you reduced in cooldown could then potentially proc Nature's Fury again. But I don't know. We'll just have to test it when we get in the game and see how it's actually working. But either way, this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the most powerful things you can do as a Druid. And this build right here, or the other variation that I'm going to show you here in just a minute, is more than likely a build that I'm going to try to move into pretty quickly. I'm going to start more than likely with a landslide build with companions anyways. So if I can get some of these legendary aspects to drop, I'm probably going to try to run this. So I don't believe that you're able to put utility aspects on two-handed weapons, but I think you can put them on amulets. So we're not going to be able to get 100% increase to this on a two-hander, but if it does work on an amulet, then we can get 50%, so we could potentially be reducing cooldowns by 12 seconds. So for this build, we're trying to reduce the cooldown of Trample as much as possible. And the reason for Trample, it's typically a bear skill, but you can run aspect of the Trampled Earth that makes Trample summon landslide pillars, and it becomes a nature magic and earth skill. Then you also run aspect of the Aftershock, so that every time an earth pillar is formed, it strikes an additional time. And I've got a couple of versions here that we're going to go over. One is a little bit different, but for this one, we also have Boulder that can be reduced in cooldown by this, and Earthen Bulwark. But I think the main powerful thing here is reducing the cooldown of Trample. And of course, we know about the unique helmet that makes your earth skills also Werebear skills, but I don't want to bank on any uniques in this build. This is something that I want to try to move into relatively quickly when the game launches. So to achieve this, my game plan is to stack as much attack speed as possible. Now, we do need to know exact attack speed breakpoints of skills, but for the most part, just run a basic skill with a bunch of attack speed and try to trigger Nature's Fury as much as possible to reduce the cooldown of Trample. So for this build, we're running Earth Spike. So Earth Spike is going to either be triggering Wind Shear or Storm Strike. Now, we don't know exactly how Nature's Fury works, or at least I don't. I don't know if it's able to cast an ability that you don't have points into. I'm really not sure, but I did put points in just to get some immobilize going on from Storm Strike, vulnerability chance from enhanced Wind Shear, and potentially movement speed. I would imagine the free cast will take on the entire tree of the ability, but we also don't know that 100% either. And then you've got Primal Landslide, getting Terra Motes when you immobilize enemies to make sure that those landslides are guaranteed crits. So when Storm Strike procs, that can help out with that if you do immobilize with it. when they're also going to be running Poison Creeper to get guaranteed Terra motes. Now, something to keep in mind is I think we can probably get to a point with Spirit Generation that we may be able to go for more of a core skill-oriented build than this even is, and not rely so much on the basic skills. If you can get to a point where you're able to, for the most part, just spam Landslide, then you're not going to be wanting to go with all these points into basic skills. And I don't know that this is even going to actually be good, but I just find it kind of interesting that we can get Vulnerable Chance, Immobilize, and movement speed pretty consistently with a bunch of attack speed on Earth Spike. But potentially you could put points into Tornado if you're just spamming Landslides and maybe basic attacking every once in a while. So there's going to be some options and variations there. And technically we don't know that the Landslides from Trample don't also proc Nature's Fury to proc more core skills. It doesn't look like it does because you're only casting the Trample and then the Landslides are happening as a kind of proc effect. And then the rest of the tree is, relatively simple. There's nothing really that crazy going on. Crit chance against poisoned enemies, Vine Creeper poisons. You could potentially put more points into the active on Poison Creeper, just to make sure you have poison up more often. But then you also are reducing the cooldown of Boulder too, which should do pretty considerable damage. And keep in mind, if this all works out the way that I would like it to, we're going to be casting both Boulder and Trample a ton, right? So if that's the case, then these two are both going to be also proccing Nature's Fury, which means they both could potentially be proccing Hurricane for us. So it remains to be seen how powerful that would be. We don't know if you can have multiple Hurricanes up at once, or if you already have a Hurricane and another Hurricane is cast or procced if it just replaces the current Hurricane that you currently have on. But I think just from a utility standpoint, that could be pretty good. You've got something else proccing Lucky Hit, you slow enemies, and then you can either get damage reduction out of it or apply Vulnerable. The one thing that we really just need to know is, can you proc an ability with Nature's Fury that you don't have points in? And then also, if you do proc an ability that you have points in, do you need to have it on your skill bar to get the benefit of the tree? I would imagine the way it works is it can proc anything within the same category, whether you have points in it or not. If you don't have any points in, it'll just proc a level 1 version. But then it also gains damage from applying points into the ability itself and will gain the tree of the ability when you proc it for free. So I could kind of see this build maybe just being you don't ever actually cast Landslide yourself. You're just basic attacking, and then Landslides are only happening from Trample, which is off cooldown all the time. Boulder is as well. And then so you're casting these two abilities pretty consistently too. You put points into Hurricane, and Hurricanes are proccing from Nature's Fury from these two abilities. The potential is insane, and I cannot wait to try this out when the game drops. Now, things get a little bit more complicated if you run one other legendary aspect. So that's Aspect of Nature's Savagery. Werewolf skills function as storm skills, and Werebear skills function as earth skills for the Nature's Fury key passive. So that seems to mean that you're going to be able to proc Nature's Fury with Werebear and Werewolf skills, and reduce the cooldown of Werebear and Werewolf skills. So in this version, I'm actually running Maul as my generator, and that's what's going to mostly be proccing Nature's Fury for me with a bunch of attack speed. And instead of running Boulder, I'm mainly just relying on Trample for damage, and then you potentially could have Debilitating Roar off of cooldown all the time. So yeah, guys, I mean, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk about this interaction and some things that you can do with it. There's obviously other ways to run it. You can do things potentially with Hurricane, reducing the cooldown of that. Obviously, defensive skills are very strong with it, especially ones like Debilitating Roar that aren't even a buff on your character. It it reduces the damage of nearby enemies. So having debilitating roar up, almost every pack or multiple times on a boss fight could be very strong. Whichever way that it works, as long as symbiotic aspect is exactly like this when the game launches, this is going to be an extremely powerful effect for the Druid. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.